The moment you become a parent, you learn one truth: hurt me if you want, but never touch my child. Karen didn't know that rule. She pushed my 10-year-old disabled son, wheelchair and all, down a hill during an HOA argument. She also didn't know I'm a Navy SEAL. My son, Ethan, is 10 years old. Smart, calm, gentle, and stuck in a wheelchair after a medical condition weakened his legs. But he never complains. Never asks why me. Just smiles and keeps going. It was a bright Saturday morning when everything changed. I was in the garage, fixing a loose bracket on a tool rack, when I heard Ethan laughing outside. That laugh was rare lately. The new HOA president, Karen, had been making his life miserable. Complaints about unsightly wheelchairs, blocking sidewalks, neighborhood aesthetics. She threw every rule in the book at a kid who just wanted a normal life. But today, Ethan was laughing, which meant the world felt peaceful for once. Then I heard it. A voice. Sharp. Bitter. Poisoned with entitlement. Move this thing. You're blocking the path. I froze. I knew that voice. Karen. I stepped outside and saw her standing inches from Ethan, hands on her hips, face twisted like she smelled something rotten. Ethan was confused, even scared, but still trying to be polite. I'm sorry, he said softly. I can move. No. You should not be here at all, she snapped. This is a private HOA walkway. Wheelchairs are not allowed without permission. My blood went cold. Karen, I said, stepping forward, he's a kid. Back off. She didn't turn toward me. Instead, she reached behind Ethan's wheelchair and pushed. Hard. The chair rolled backward fast down the small slope toward our driveway. Dad! Ethan screamed. Tools clattered as I sprinted. The world slowed. My heart roared. I reached him just before the wheels caught the edge of the pavement, grabbing the handles and halting the chair so fast my knees buckled. Ethan shook with fear. Tears spilled down his cheeks. Karen just stood there, smirking. Maybe that will teach him not to break HOA rules, she said. I stared at her in a silence so cold the air felt heavy. She still didn't know who I was. She didn't know my background. She didn't know what happens when you harm a SEAL's child. But she was about to. I carried Ethan inside and checked him. Scrapes, bruises, shaken, but okay. The real damage was emotional. As I cleaned his arms, he whispered, Dad, why does she hate me? I swallowed the rage boiling in my chest. She doesn't hate you, I said. She hates everything she can't control. Then my phone buzzed. A number I hadn't seen in a long time. Washington Naval Command. I lifted the phone. Lieutenant Commander Hayes, the voice said, are you active? Retired, I replied. Why? We received a report involving your HOA. It mentions impersonation of authority and potential harm to a minor. You need to confirm the situation. Wait, how did they? Then Ethan rolled forward and whispered. Dad. I think Karen was recording me. My heart clenched. She wasn't just bullying my son. She was building a case. A fake one. I stepped onto the porch and froze. Karen was across the street, filming us with her phone. She shouted, I have it all on camera. That kid is a danger. You'll both be removed from this community. Removed? That's when it hit me. Karen pushed Ethan intentionally. Then tried to frame him as the problem, so she could force an HOA eviction. But she had no idea that the one person she tried to intimidate used to train federal counterintelligence teams. And she definitely didn't know who I was calling next. Because there are people you don't threaten. A disabled child. A military family. And especially a Navy SEAL's son. Some people shout when they're angry. Some throw things. Some slam doors. Me? I get quiet. Dangerously quiet. I handed Ethan a snack, turned on his favorite show, kissed the top of his head, and stepped outside with the same calmness I used walking into enemy compounds overseas. Karen was still filming. "Stop right there," she barked. "This video is going straight to the HOA board." "You assaulted me." "Assaulted her?" "She pushed a disabled 10-year-old down a hill, and I assaulted her?" I exhaled slowly. Calm. Controlled. "Karen," I said, "you shoved my son. This ends now." She let out a laugh so shrill neighbors peeked through windows. "You have no power here," she said, waving her phone. "I am the HOA. And this video proves you and your little burden." I stepped so close she backed up. "Finish that sentence." Her eyes widened, not with fear, but realization. She finally sensed something she hadn't before. I wasn't a homeowner arguing. I was a SEAL trying not to break someone. My phone buzzed. A message from an old teammate. "On my way. Stay put." Karen didn't know it yet. But the cavalry was already coming. 2 hours later, Karen held an emergency HOA meeting on the cul-de-sac, her personal stage. 5 board members stood behind her like a sad marching band. Karen lifted a clipboard dramatically. "This homeowner," she said, pointing at my house, "has violated several community rules. His child is a safety risk. He must leave the neighborhood within 48 hours. Neighbors gasped. A couple whispered, "He's the veteran, right?" Karen hissed, "He is unstable. His son is a liability." I stepped forward, Ethan beside me in his wheelchair. "That's enough." Karen smirked. "You don't get to speak." One board member, a timid man with glasses, looked at me and whispered, "Sir, did she push your son?" Karen snapped, "Silence. You don't question me." And that's when a black SUV rolled into the street. Door opened. Boots hit pavement. Karen froze. Because out stepped someone she didn't expect. Chief Naval Security Officer, Commander Brooks. My former CO. Calm. Tall. Ice cold. He walked straight toward her. "You filed a complaint involving a Navy family?" he asked. Karen swallowed. I didn't know." "You impersonated legal authority," Brooks said. "You endangered a minor. And you attempted fraudulent eviction." He turned to me. "Lieutenant Hayes, you okay?" Karen's eyes exploded wide. "Lieutenant? Commander? Navy Security?" Her petty power had just been vaporized. Brooks wasn't alone. 3 federal investigators stepped out of the SUV, badges out, bodycams on. Karen stumbled backward. "Wait, I didn't mean he was blocking the..." "Ma'am," one investigator interrupted, "we have video from several neighbors. You shoved a disabled child." Karen's mouth opened but nothing came out. One neighbor stepped forward. "I saw everything," she said. "She's been bullying that boy for months." Another added, "She tried to fine them for letting their kid exist in public." Karen shrieked, "You're all lying." Brooks turned to her calmly. "You have 2 options. Option 1, cooperate. Option 2, resist." Karen pointed a shaky finger at me. "This is your fault. If your kid wasn't such a burden." Brooks cut her off. "Take her." The investigators placed her in handcuffs as she screamed, kicked, and blamed everyone but herself. Ethan watched quietly, gripping my arm. "Dad, is she going to jail?" I knelt beside him. "She's going somewhere she can't hurt you again." He nodded. For the first time that day. He smiled. Just when we thought the scene was over, a county sheriff truck pulled in. "Sheriff, we're charging her with child endangerment, assault, HOA authority impersonation, and attempted fraud." Sheriff Daniels nodded. "Good. She's been harassing people for months." The timid board member sighed with relief. Thank God. Ethan whispered, Dad, are we safe now? I lifted him gently from his wheelchair, hugged him tight, and said, the HOA had someone worse. Someone angry. Someone coming. Karen was gone, but the neighborhood wasn't quiet. Not even close. That night, around 11 p.m., after Ethan had finally fallen asleep, I heard footsteps outside. Slow. Heavy. Intentional. I stepped to the window. A group of 4 men stood in the cul-de-sac, dark clothes, hoods up, no HOA badges, no reason to be there. I recognized the posture immediately. I opened the front door, silent as a shadow. Looking for something? I asked. You messed with the HOA president, he said. Now we mess with you. He laughed. Yeah. We do. That was their last mistake. Because they didn't know the difference between scaring people and provoking the wrong man. The first guy lunged with the crowbar. I moved first. 2 steps. Pivot. Palm strike hard into his wrist. The crowbar hit the ground. His scream echoed. Second guy ran at me. Hooked punch. I ducked, swept his legs, and sent him face-first into my yard. Third one grabbed me from behind. Bad choice. I dropped my weight, slammed an elbow into his ribs, and he collapsed gasping for air. The fourth man froze, staring like he'd just seen the devil. You're insane. No, I said calmly. I'm trained. Before he could run, headlights flashed. Brooks's SUV. He stepped out with his team, weapons holstered but stance serious. Lieutenant, you okay? I pointed at the 4 men on the ground. These aren't HOA members. They're ex-cons Karen met online. Brooks nodded. We'll take it from here. The men were zip-tied, searched, and shoved into the SUV. One kept whining. She said we'd get paid. She said the dad was weak. Brooks smirked at me. Funny how people misjudge you. I shrugged. Happens a lot. But this night wasn't over. Because a 5th figure had been watching from the shadows. And he wasn't running away. I saw him standing behind a tree across the street. Tall. Lean. Arms crossed. He didn't flinch when I looked directly at him. I approached slowly. You want to tell me why you're here? He stepped into the streetlight. Not a thug. Not an ex-con. A man in a suit. Expensive shoes. Clean shave. Cold eyes. He spoke calmly. You just assaulted HOA contractors. You mean criminals. They were hired for enforcement. By Karen. He smiled thinly. By me. Ah. The real power. Not Karen. Her sponsor. The HOA's financial puppet master. He extended a card. Harold Pierce. HOA legal director. You just interfered with my staff. I ripped the card in half. He blinked. Slow. Predictive. Reptilian. You will regret that, he said. I walked closer. You threatened my son. You sent men at night. I'm done playing nice. Harold whispered, this neighborhood doesn't belong to you. I grinned. It will. He raised an eyebrow. How? You'll see. He smirked and walked away. He didn't realize he had revealed everything. He thought he was in control. But he had just declared war. Against a seal. Bad idea. By morning, the neighborhood was buzzing with rumors. Karen arrested. Thugs detained. HOA suspended. But Harold? He wasn't done. He delivered a letter to my door. A thick envelope filled with legal nonsense. Failure to comply with HOA authority, interference with enforcement agents, violation of community safety standards, attempted assault. Every charge was fake. But each one carried massive fines. Harold wanted to drown me financially. He didn't know something important. Navy SEALs don't drown. We adapt. Before responding, I made a single phone call to a friend named Samantha Reyes, federal attorney. She showed up in a gray sedan 30 minutes later. "What did they do now?" she asked. I handed her the stack. She flipped through it, expression turning from confusion to disgust. "This is extortion. Criminal. Completely illegal." She looked at me. "You want me to handle this?" "Not yet," I said. "I want him to think he's winning." "Why?" "Because people like Harold only make mistakes when they feel untouchable." She smirked. "How far you want to take this?" "As far as it needs to go." She nodded. "You always were terrifyingly patient." And I was. Because the real trap was still coming. 3 days later, Harold hosted a mandatory HOA meeting in the community center. Required attendance. Threats of fines. Typical power play. I brought Ethan with me. Not because he needed to be there, but because Harold needed to see exactly who he hurt. The room was full. Whispers everywhere. Harold stood at the front, smiling like a politician who never lost. "Homeowners," he began, "this community has been threatened by violent individuals." I stepped forward. "Start over," I said. He locked eyes with me. "Lieutenant Hayes, you aren't recognized." "Start over." The room fell silent. Brooks walked in behind me, uniform crisp, badge glinting. 2 county deputies followed. Harold swallowed. "Why is Navy Security here?" Brooks replied calmly. "To witness your removal." Gasps filled the room. Harold tried to laugh. "You have no authority." "Incorrect," Brooks said. "Your hired enforcers admitted everything. All recorded." A deputy stepped forward. "Harold Pierce, you are under arrest for fraud, conspiracy, extortion, child endangerment, and employing unlicensed security." The room erupted. Harold panicked. "You don't understand. The HOA. The HOA is dissolved," the deputy said. "Every board member tied to Karen is suspended indefinitely." Harold pointed at me in desperation. "He's a danger. He's military. He attacked my contractors." Brooks stepped between us. "His contractors broke into his property with weapons." Then I leaned in. "Don't ever touch my son again." Harold's face drained of color. As deputies handcuffed him, he shouted, "This neighborhood belongs to me. You can't take it." I stood tall. "It already belongs to us." Ethan squeezed my hand. And for the first time in months, the neighborhood clapped. Later that evening, I wheeled Ethan to the end of our driveway. Neighbors approached one by one with food, cards, support, things we'd never received before. A grandmother hugged Ethan gently and said, "You're the bravest boy I've ever seen." He smiled shyly. I looked around the street, finally peaceful. Kids playing. Dogs barking. No Karen. No Harold. Just life. Brooks stood beside me. "You did good," he said. "You did better," I replied. He shrugged. "We protect our own." As the sun set, Ethan whispered, "Dad, are we finally safe?" I knelt beside him, squeezed his shoulder, and said, "We're safe. And we always will be. Because justice doesn't always come wearing a badge. Sometimes it comes wearing scars. And because when a Navy SEAL is a father, no one hurts his child and walks away.